Syracuse Orange fans, can you feel the heat?
What is going on, Cuse Nation, and welcome to yet another edition of Orange Heat. My name is Giovanni Heater, as always, and thank you for joining me as we tip off the 2019-2020 Syracuse Orange basketball season. Syracuse already off to a hot start with 4 wins across the season, Italy this summer, and 2 exhibition matchup victories against Damon and a very impressive Canadian team in Carleton. Now, we're here today to take an in-depth look at the entire 2019-2020 Syracuse basketball schedule. We're going to go through each game, give a prediction, and finally, we're going to end things off with a record prediction. But first, let's take a look at what we are dealing with this season and just take a look at what this Syracuse basketball team has to offer. The first thing that jumps out to me is scoring. They have been absolutely lights out from the three-point line thus far over in Italy and in the exhibition play, and that's the biggest thing that Jim Boeheim is excited about. Now, the line has moved back a little bit further to an international three-point line, but that hasn't fazed this Syracuse team whatsoever. They're shooting lights out, and that's guys like Buddy Boeheim, guys like Elijah Hughes, guys like Joe Girard III, and the exciting thing about that is that you're mostly going to have 3 to possibly 4 scorers on the floor at a time with this deep Syracuse basketball team, something that Jim Boeheim is ecstatic about because lately we have not had that depth at any position, really. This year we have it. I'm curious to see how much he is going to use that depth. Now, who's going to be the leader on this very young and inexperienced Syracuse basketball team? That's going to be none other than Elijah Hughes. Elijah Hughes has been given the full green light from Coach Boeheim going into this season, and he was one of the most prolific scorers in the Atlantic Coast Conference last season. He could simply take over a game. He's a threat from the outside, but he also has some very crucial drives down the stretch in ball games. He's capable of getting in lanes. He's capable of putting up contested shots, and he's also capable of playing some excellent defense, being one of the leaders in blocks in the Atlantic Coast Conference, as well as in this Syracuse basketball team. Now, who else is going to be a presence defensively on the inside? Well, how about guys like Jesse Edwards, John Bolajak, and by the way, Merrick Dolajai and Barama Sidibe are back, and Barama Sidibe finally at full health going into this season. Boeheim said he's been playing the best basketball that he has seen him play since he has put on a Syracuse Orange jersey. Merrick Dolajai developing that shot, always a presence defensively. He's a scrappy player. He's nitty-gritty, gets on the ground, gets that basketball, and turns those into opportunities on the offensive side of the basketball for the Syracuse Orange. Looking at some of the young guys, Buddy Boeheim, coming into his second season under his father in a Syracuse Orange jersey, and it took him a little bit last year to get his stride, but once he did, that kid was lights out. One of the best scorers on the team last season. He just has a pure shot from outside. He's capable of putting on a drive. He's been playing basketball his entire life. I'm very excited, and I'm sure you guys are as well, to see him take that next step going into this basketball season. And how about Jalen Carey? Yes, Jalen Carey has struggled with the turnover game, but he showed glimpses last year wins such as the UConn game where he dropped 24 points that he is capable of being a scoring point guard. If he has learned how to take care of the ball better this season, then I think that he is going to be a key asset into the scoring of this basketball team. And no longer are the days of us seeing Syracuse basketball put up 60 points, 70 points in a game. This team is probably going to be in the 70s and above night in and night out. I'm expecting some 80, 90 point performances, especially against lesser opponents, which is really exciting because those teams that are going on to be championship contenders are able to score in bulk and score quickly. That is something that Syracuse is able to do this year. And how about Joe Girard III? Kid's only a freshman, and I think that Jim Boeheim is just simply going to have a hard time keeping him off of the floor. He can drive the ball. He can shoot the ball from deep. He has Steph Curry-like range, and he has confidence about him, which is the most exciting thing about his game. He's not fazed by the bright lights. He's ready. He's played on the stages like a state championship before, both in basketball and football. He is capable of taking over a ball game. It's only his first year, and I think that he could be the next Jerry McNamara, the next Eric Devendorf, the next any prolific scorer, Tyler Ennis, anybody that has taken the nation by storm in just their freshman year and become that much of a presence on a basketball team. I think Joe Girard III has that kind of ability. And we didn't even mention at the forward position, Quincy Guerriere. And I think that Quincy is going to be huge on the Syracuse basketball team this year. Similar to an O'Shea Brissett situation, kind of underrated in his recruiting because he was from Canada. Had he played high school basketball in the United States of America, he probably could have been a high 4-star, possibly a 5-star level player. So Syracuse has really installed that recruiting pipeline in Canada. Quincy Guerriere, a huge pickup for the Orange. He has a very mature body for obviously his age and just his freshman year of college. Very mature, very athletic body. He is going to be capable of scoring points in bunches. He's a good shooter, but I can't wait to see his presence on the inside, dunks, layups, athletically just dominating for just a freshman in the Atlantic Coast Conference. So very excited for the Syracuse basketball team. And we didn't mention everybody. You're talking guys like Howard Washington, like Bryson Goodine, guys like that who are probably going to be out there making a difference, making their names be heard. This is a very young Syracuse basketball team, very inexperienced, but that is the beauty of college sports. No more do you have any egos on this team. No more do you have any NBA bright lights in sight where that's their goal. Not naming names, but that happened the last couple of seasons. Now these guys can move the ball well. They work well together, and I think that is strides from what that Italy trip had to offer as far as the program building. And I think it came at a beautiful time with such a young team. They've got the camaraderie going. They really do believe in each other. They really do seem to love each other. They know where each other are on the court. The ball movement's there. They're passing the ball well, and it's leading to buckets. And I'm extremely excited. The weak point of this team might be the defense, but if you can score, the point in basketball is to outscore your opponent. Jim Boeheim has always coached up a very good defense. These kids are long, they're athletic, and I think that as the season progresses, that will become less and less of an issue as this team is very capable of scoring. So without further ado, let's take a look at the 2019-2020 Syracuse basketball schedule. Now the Orange kick off the season with a home game against the defending national champion Virginia Cavaliers. And I'm very excited about this game. It's a Tuesday night right now in Central New York. The game is tomorrow night on a Wednesday at 9 p.m. I'm very excited about this game because what an opportunity to kick off the 2019 season. And it's beautiful because this new installation of expanding the amount of conference games in the ACC each year is really cool because as you're going to see, they're going to kick off the season with an ACC opponent. And sprinkled in the non-conference are some ACC games, and you're going to see that as we go down the stretch here. But an exciting way to kick off the season, defending national champs, Virginia has a lot of guys that have moved on to the NBA, so a big opportunity for the Orange to make a statement tomorrow night kicking off the season. So, right here, what do I think is going to happen? Well, to be quite honest with you, I think that it's going to be an offense versus defense type matchup. Virginia historically has not been a good scoring team, but has always given us trouble with their defense lately. But we haven't had that flashy, that impressive offense as of late. So it's kind of an oil and vinegar type mix. Now, as I said, both teams moved on, retired a lot of players. Both teams kind of with a fresh start in some ways. A lot of these Virginia guys are going to be hungry to earn the right. Tony Bennett, a fantastic coach. But at the end of the day, I think the home field advantage really just knocks it off for the Orange. And I think Syracuse takes down Virginia, outscoring them in this ball game. I think that it's going to be offense versus defense all the way. Virginia was able to score last year, and that's why they won the championship along with their defense. but a lot of those guys like Kyle Guy, like Jerome, have moved on. I got Syracuse opening up the season with a win against the Cavaliers, and what a win to kick off the season. Now, moving on. A whole week later, Syracuse is going to play host to Colgate. Now, you think that this is just Colgate, this is nothing? No. Colgate has opened some eyes. They're saying this is going to be one of Syracuse's toughest non-conference games. They think this is one of the most exciting, and as far as mid-major teams, they have some of the most in the highest ceiling, some of the most progress to be made, but one of the most impressive teams for sure. So I'm going to say Syracuse wins this game, but I don't think it's going to be as easy as you would expect. I think Colgate, certainly the hype is there for them. I think they're going to be pretty decent this year, but I got Syracuse winning that one. Again, if you can beat Virginia, you can beat anybody else, so I have Syracuse winning. And then on the 16th, a few days later, it's going to be the first NIT tip-off game. Syracuse is going to play host to Seattle. Now, Seattle, a team that none of us really know much about, especially because they're out west. For that reason, I'm going to have the Orange starting off 3-0 with a win at the Dome against Seattle. Typically, these non-conference games, Syracuse is going to win a lot of these against lesser opponents. Now, on the 20th, the Orange are going to play Cornell. It's the Boeheim versus Boeheim round 2. We had Boeheim versus Boeheim round 1. Now it's Boeheim, triple threat round 2. I went to this game last year. It's a cool thing to see because obviously everyone supports Jimmy and Buddy and Jimmy Sr. But I have the Orange ultimately winning this one. I think this could be close. It's been close lately. But again, Syracuse, Cornell, Syracuse pulls out the dub. Now, Bucknell, another NIT tip-off game at the Carrier Dome. Another team we don't know much about. I think Bucknell could give us a little bit of trouble here, but Bucknell doesn't have a very strong defense. Going to be a shootout-type ball game. I got the Orange winning that one and moving on to be 5-0 to start off the 2019 college basketball season. After that, Oklahoma State. This is a game at a neutral site location. The Orange travel down to New York City and Brooklyn at the Barclays Center. Oklahoma State in the NIT tip-off tournament. A tough game here, but at the end of the day, I think Syracuse wins this one, and we're biased, so we're going to put a lot of wins on here. I really think that this is a special year for Syracuse. When people have asked, I put out a poll, and actually, matter of fact, let's take a look at that poll right now. I put out a poll, and I said, what are your expectations for this Syracuse basketball team this year? I said, is this going to be a team in which, is a ACC national championship contender? That was the first option. Is this going to be a team that is a solid top 25 team for most of the season? And that's including a nice, solid NCAA tournament pick, anywhere from seeds, let's say 7, 6, all the way up to 4, 3. Somewhere in there, somewhere around a 6-5 seed is what you would expect out of a solid top 25 team. Or is this an NCAA tournament bubble team once again? And then the last option was an NIT team. This was just not our year. So looking at what people had to say, we had 9 votes for the ACC National Championship contenders. Now, I think that, especially after this Syracuse football season, it's very hard to be that optimistic, and that's why I did not place my vote there. But then another option here, solid top 25 team all year. I think this is where I fall. We're not starting the team ranked, which is kind of nice because Syracuse historically responds better when they are slept on a little bit. And that's a lot of teams across the country year in and year out. And I think this is where they're going to fall. I'd expect about a 5 seed in the NCAA tournament, solid performance throughout the year, a solid contender for the ACC championship, yes, but not that 1 seed, not that 2 seed. We're talking like a 3 seed, 4 seed in the ACC tournament. So I have them at a solid top 25 team all year. The majority of the votes fell at NCAA tournament bubble team with 22. Now, very close to that 19 for the solid top 25 team, which when you think about it are so close, just a few games away from each other, but so different at the same time. And then 16 votes for NIT team, not our year. Again, people trying to probably feed into the fact of the inexperience. Now, I think that because of that solid top 25 team, I have Syracuse taking down Oklahoma State at the Barclays Center, going 6-0 at that point in the season. And then after that, 2 days later, they would take on the winner of Ole Miss versus Penn State. Now, Ole Miss, a team that beat us in the NIT tournament a few years back, the year we had John Gill and Andrew White, they're very capable of scoring the ball, as is Penn State. But these are two lower level, middle of the pack kind of in their conferences, whether it's the SEC or it's the Big Ten. This is a game that's tough, especially because it's not at the Carrier Dome, but we know it's the Barclays Center. Syracuse fans always travel down well to New York City. I have a win here, but a very close win. Syracuse ultimately winning that tournament. And hey, that could go either way. Last year, we thought Syracuse was going to win that tournament that had Oregon and Iowa in it and everything down in New York City at the Garden. Wasn't the case. So those preseason tournaments are always a toss-up, but I have Syracuse winning this one. Then Iowa. We just mentioned them. They beat us last year. Iowa on the 3rd inside the Carrier Dome. Big Ten ACC matchup. The Big Ten ACC Challenge, always an exciting little thing that they do in the non-conference. Now, Syracuse, Iowa, interesting game here. Iowa, very good defensive team, also capable of scoring the ball. And the thing about them is they're returning a lot of guys from that talented team last season. Syracuse, are they due for a non-conference loss this year? This, again, a very tough team, but because it's at the Carrier Dome, I'm going to put a win. If they were traveling to Iowa, I'd say that could be a different story. But because of that, I am going to put a win for the Orange. Now looking on the 7th at Georgia Tech. This is going to be the second ACC game of the season, and we haven't even gotten to January yet. In fact, we're at the beginning of December, before Christmas time. Absolutely exciting at Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech has been at the bottom of the ACC as of late. Their coach always drives me nuts to watch him coach. He's nuts. I'm going to have to put a win here, and it's a tough win because it's on the road, but again, I have a lot of faith in the scoring of the Syracuse team and Georgia Tech. You know, Okiki's gone. This is not the same Georgia Tech team. I think that Syracuse comes out with a win there. Following that, a week later, they're going to play at Georgetown. Rivalry against the Hoyas. Now, if you remember historically, this has gone down to the wire 2 years ago. The Orange went at Georgetown, had a big-time comeback win in overtime. Then last year, they went to overtime again. And then Syracuse got the job. Or, no, not overtime, but they got the job done. Tyus Battle hit a buzzer beater nearly right at the end. Syracuse has won 2 in a row, but Georgetown's on the upswing with Patrick Ewing. And this team, this game definitely scares me, especially if you're going into this game at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9-0, going at Georgetown. You want to keep that momentum going. It's a hostile environment. This is a very good Georgetown team, capable of scoring, capable of defense. This is tough. I'm going to put a Syracuse win here. And that is going to be, we're talking overtime, very close game. And that's just going to come down to who wants it more. Ewing, I think that just Boeheim's experience at coaching is going to override Ewing in the late game situations as it has the previous 2 years in a row, the adjustments, everything like that. And that's the only reason why, really. Then Syracuse is going to play host to Oakland. Oakland, a team that gave us some trouble last season. I think Syracuse wins this game against Oakland, but that's a tough one because Oakland, you know, don't sleep on Oakland. They've given us trouble last season, and I believe we played them again the year before. Now on the 21st, North Florida, before we head to the quick Christmas break, Syracuse against North Florida at the Dome. That has to be a win. And after we finish this column, right now Syracuse sits at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and 0, and we're nearing ACC conference play for the rest of the season. One more final game of the non-conference against Niagara on the 28th. That has to be a Syracuse win. Niagara just not at the same level, obviously. A D1 team in their own right, absolutely, but just not there. Right now, Syracuse going into full-fledged conference mode at a staggering 13-0. Let's see what happens. Now, this could go different ways, though. This Virginia game tomorrow could be a loss. It very well could be a loss, and Syracuse would still be okay because it would exploit what they need to work on. It's so early in the season that really doesn't mean all that much. And the big Virginia game is going to be right here on the 11th when we play them again at Virginia. Now, going into the rest of this, Syracuse hosting Notre Dame at the Dome. I think this is a W. I think Notre Dame is going to be better this year. But again, it's at the Dome, and this could be a different story when we play them on the road. Syracuse hosting Virginia Tech. Now, kind of the same thing. Syracuse lost at Virginia Tech last year. Not the same Syracuse team. I think this is another win. And we're putting a lot of wins, but I think that they're that good this year. And at this point, if you have this many wins, Syracuse is going to be a top 10 level team. And some people in the comment sections, as we'll talk about in a minute, feel that way as well. Here falls my first loss. When we go on the road on the 11th to take on Virginia, a team that we just beat at the beginning of the season, Virginia is going to be hungry. They're going to be improved. They're going to be very good offensively, and they're going to kind of shut down our offense a little bit. We can't really get things going. I think Syracuse suffers their first loss of the season here on the road at Virginia. And that's the beautiful thing about college basketball is you never, ever, ever know. It's not like football where you can look at physical matchups and everything. You never know in college basketball. And that is the beauty of the sport. That's why they play these games. I have Syracuse taking their first loss on the road at Virginia. Coming back to the Dome, will they bounce back against Boston College? Yes, I think they do. Boston College has not impressed me at all whatsoever basketball-wise in the last few years. I think Syracuse bounces back with a win there. But then a tough two-game stretch. You're going at Virginia Tech, at Notre Dame, two teams that you just beat here, two teams very hungry to beat you. I think Syracuse goes down to Virginia Tech and catches a very tough win, but I think that they turn around and they lose to Notre Dame. I think that Notre Dame is going to be pretty solid this year. I think the Orange just have a tough time on the road at Notre Dame this season. They already beat them once here. I think that they lose that second game, splitting the season series right there as they did with Virginia. Again, a game that could go either way, but I got Syracuse losing that one. I'm impressed with Notre Dame going into this season. Then on the 25th, Syracuse plays host to Pitt, a home game. I think they win that home game. Then they're going to play at Clemson. A tough game. Clemson, not bad whatsoever, but I think they pick up a road win at Clemson. And then they're going to play Duke. And they're going to play Duke at home. And Duke, a team that historically has had our number a little bit, but we've had theirs too. That's almost a dead split. The big rivalry game inside the Carrier Dome. No more Zion. No more R.J. Barrett. Syracuse beats Duke to kick off February with a win inside the Carrier Dome on Saturday night. I got the Orange. Then Wake Forest on the road. I think Syracuse catches themselves a little bit high, maybe. A little bit, they don't get things going as easily and as soon, but I still think that they don't have any trouble against Wake Forest. Then NC State at the Dome. I think that this is a game where Syracuse just gets caught sleeping a little bit. I like NC State lately. They're very hit or miss, but they're capable of scoring when they have everything in full gear. I think Syracuse loses to NC State, just caught sleeping a little bit, and that's all there. There's no really rhyme reason to that. That could happen a lot of times during the season. That could happen in the Iowa game. That could happen in the Oakland game. That could happen in a lot of different games this season. Then they go at Florida State. Florida State, a team very tall, very lengthy, very impressive as of late. I think Syracuse loses this one at Florida State, a tough one, and I got the Orange losing that one. Just kind of a little two-game losing streak. By no means is Syracuse in any kind of trouble. That's just how things play out. You're not going to win every game in college basketball. Then at Louisville, a team that's very much so impressed me this season, and I think that Syracuse catches a win at Louisville. I think they're going to be very good this season, but I think Syracuse goes on the road. They don't lose 3 in a row. They say we're still here to play, and they win that one. Then Georgia Tech at the Dome. I think you got to win that one. You already beat them at Georgia Tech. Then you're playing at Pitt, the Oakland Zoo. A tough game there. I think this game at the Oakland Zoo is going to be a loss just because it's a very tough place to play. Pitt always comes to play there. We've lost there many times before. I got a loss there. Then North Carolina at the Dome. Another big game. There's 3 huge games at the Dome this year. It's Virginia, Duke, and North Carolina. Now, can they win all three? That's the question. Unfortunately, North Carolina has had our number year in and year out, and we've never beat North Carolina except the one year. I have a loss here against North Carolina and a close loss at the Dome, but we haven't not beat them really at all, and they've had our number since we joined the Atlantic Coast Conference. I got North Carolina in this one. Then they finish off the season at Boston College and at Miami, and I think both of these are falling in the win column. So, to cap it off, I think the Orange goes on to win this season. Moral victory. Moral victory, be a top 25 team, a contender week in and week out. And I think the Orange finish off this season with a final record of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25 wins. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 losses. And I think that's a very, very reasonable prediction there. I think that UNC has had our number. I think Duke and us is a split, but I think that we have a great recruiting class, and I think Trey Jones will give us trouble defensively. He's very talented, but no more Zion, no more RJ. It's going to be a great game, great atmosphere at the Dome. And I think the hardest games, we're going to start our 5 hardest games for this 25-7 record. I think you have to go first and foremost against Virginia, obviously. And then I think you have to go again. You probably definitely have to go with the Duke. You definitely have to go with the North Carolina. And then I think you have to go at Louisville's a very hard game. And I think the last and final, the hard game of the season is probably going to fall. This is tough. This is tough. Probably would have to be either at Georgetown or at Florida State. But I think I'm going to say at Georgetown because that would be the only non-conference game. So I think those are the 5 hardest, 5 most important, however you want to see them, games going into this season. And, of course, after that Miami game, you're going to have the 2020 ACC tournament down in Greensboro, North Carolina, once again this year. So I think they'll give Coach B some trouble for that one. That's going to be March 10th through March 14th. That's a Tuesday to a Saturday. Then, of course, the 2020 NCAA tournament. I think Syracuse could fall anywhere from, like I said, a 6 all the way up to a 3 seed. I think they're going to be right about the pretty number of about a 5 seed this year. Very excited about this season. Very young. Very much to work on, but just great. Just great. So much to watch. So much to be excited about, guys. Let's see what you guys had to say. I did put out there, besides the poll, I asked if anybody had any questions, and I said that I would definitely be willing to respond to those questions. So let's take a look at what you guys had to say. Sophia says, Duke all the way. Syracuse sucks. Okay. Well, I'm sorry, Sophia. Let's go Orange. That's all I got to say about that. Jake says that he is very excited for this season. Jake, I am very excited as well, my man. Let's see. Austin. Austin has to say that he thinks that the problems are going to be rebounding, they need to pass the ball more, and they need to push the ball more. Well, with the rebounding, I could agree with you because they don't have that height that they have had lately. Guerrero's tall. Obviously, our centers, Sidibe, Dolajai are tall, but you also don't have Pascal, so that's a 7-footer you're missing out on. And then your guards aren't that tall. No more do you have a 6'5" Tyus Battle and things like that. So I think rebounding could become a problem, which obviously you need to rebound the ball to win games. I agree with that. Passing, I think that they have passed the ball really well, actually. Do they need to pass more? Sure. I think they need to limit the turnovers on passing. I agree. And then push the ball. Absolutely. The transition game's huge. Got to take advantage of those opportunities. Great input. Austin, let's see what Reed has to say. Reed has to say that they're going to shock a lot of people. I say them being a top 10 team at one point during the season. I couldn't agree more with you there, Reed. I think Syracuse is being slept on a little bit this year. A lot of people are predicting them to be like the 10 seed in the ACC tournament. I could not I just couldn't see that happening. I think that they are going to shock a lot of people. And again, I could see them being a top 10 team as well. So I put that out earlier today. Not a lot of people, just because I put it out like, 2 hours ago. So thank you guys so much as always. Again, the Orange predicted it here on Orange Sheet. They're going to beat Duke. They're going to beat Virginia. And they're going to go on to go 25-7 heading into that ACC tournament. Excited for this season. And as always, let's go Orange, baby. Woo!
Thank you for listening to Orange Heat, done by pursuing sports broadcaster and high school student Giovanni Heater. You can find him on Twitter and Instagram at GioHeater. Please like, comment, and subscribe for more Syracuse athletics and Orange Heat action. Let's go Orange!